Hey everyone, welcome to another I Did It with Kimmer tutorial. I'm Kimmer from the Stash in Baldwin, Wisconsin, and today we are doing the Chomfy headband for our tutorial kit. I really like this one. I think you'll like the yarn that I chose for the kit. It's very soft. It's totally washable. You don't need to worry about any of that. If you like this kit, you may like some of our other kits, which are available on our website at www.shopthestashbusters.com. And you can also follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel here. We have many other tutorials that you can see anytime, and we also have a weekly show called Yarn Yak that we do about the Fibercrafts yarn and yarn, crochet and knitting mostly, but we talk a lot about various things that have to do with both of those crafts on that show. So check that out sometime if you are so inclined. So let's get started. First, what is in your bag? This month for the Chomfy headband, what is in your bag is a nice big squishy soft ball of bamboo and acrylic, totally washable. Very, very next to skin soft. You can give this to anyone, a kid, a adult, anybody, and it'll be great. Warm, light, easy to work with. Big ball of yarn, and you should have a hook. If you don't like the hook that came with your kit, you can certainly use your own. Just check your sizing. You should also have an I Did It with Kimmer tag that you can sew on your headband or anything else you want, or just keep or put on a project bag or anything. But my first little I Did It with Kimmer sew on tag, I thought I would throw one in these bags. You will also need snippies, and you may also need a yarn needle for sewing and weaving in your ends. I really prefer these steel bent tip yarn needles with a very large eye. You can fit almost any size of yarn through that eye, especially if you use my piece of paper trick. And the bent tip really helps you pick up loops on stitches, not instead of whole stitches with a crochet hook, which helps you really weave those ends in and hide them really well and very securely. So we sell these at the store. If you just look up yarn needle, you will see it's the only yarn needle we sell. I'm a big fan of these, and I've been using them for a few years now, and I have not ever deviated from that. So check those out. So let's get started. To make the Chomfy headband, we are going to chain 50-ish. Now, you're going to check the sizing of your chain if this is for you. If it is not for you, you're going to go with it. You could go 5 to 8 chains smaller if this is for a child, say elementary school or younger. And if it's for a person with a really large head, some of us have bigger heads than others, you could add an even number of chains to it. So don't be scared, but if you're not sure, just go with the 50 for now. Make one and then see how it fits, and then you'll be able to make adjustments a little easier. So I'm going to go ahead and switch the camera so you can see what I'm doing. And I am going to get started. Okay? Okay, here we go. You got this. All right. Also say hello to Jorge. Hi, Jorge. This is my frog. He watches everything I do to make sure, you know, I don't need him to frog. So what we're going to do first is chain 50. Like I said, if you've already started, keep going. If you haven't, let's get her done. If you don't know how to do any of the stitches or procedures or skills that are involved in I Did It with Kimmer kit, most of the basic stuff is already done in tutorials on our channel, so you could pause and go check those out if you need help with any of those. I will try to show you anything that's specific to this pattern that's weird. A little slower and a little closer, but for the basic things we just kind of just go. So we're just going to go ahead and chain 50. $50 always sounds like a lot to me, but it's really not. 150 is a minute. Also, I'm really bad when I have to do regular chaining instead of the chainless foundation. I don't really count. I just chain for a second or two and then see how many I have. So without twisting my chain, I'll just go back and start with the first bump and count them up. All right. And then I try to remember that number and keep going. 8. I won't count out loud because that'll mess you up. All right, so I chained 50. This yarn has a little give to it, so keep that in mind. The stretch is pretty good. So after that, we are just going to chain one more, and then we're going to half double in each chain. Okay? Okay, so we've chained 50 without twisting our yarn. We're going to keep her very straight, and we're going to go ahead and join into the first chain with a slip stitch. Like that. And then we're going to chain 1 to lock that closed. So then keep it from twisting. Make sure that both sides are going in the same direction by pinching them like this. And then straightening it out and then going ahead and working in your first stitch with a half double crochet. Your first chain to work in is right here. Okay, right there. So go ahead and yarn over, insert, and pull up and half double. And just continue on around your whole chain, half doubling in each stitch. All right? See, easy peasy, we got this. This headband is fun, it is quick. The stitch set is very repeatable. You don't have to do anything weird. I love this one. Makes a nice, wide, cute headband. Ear warmer. We're up here in Wisconsin. I'm not sure where you are, but around these parts, ear warmers are infinitely useful. They take less yarn than a hat, usually. Cover up the tops of your ears, which is the first thing that gets cold on your head. Windy days and all that. So we're just half doubling in each chain as we go around. And again, when holding on to the bottom of the next chain that I'm going to work in, to keep my chain from flipping around on me and getting a twist in it. This is one of the trickier, it's just one of those things that when you're crocheting that, you know, you want to keep an eye on. Don't panic if it gets a twist in it. There's a little, you can either rip it out and go again, or there's a little like thing you can do. When you get to the other end, I can show you. Just try. You'll notice I've got my middle finger and thumb of my yarn hand literally right on the next stitch to keep it going in the, to keep it from flipping around like this. That's what I'm saying. You want to avoid that. Avoid that. Keep that bump facing you. And also the other thing is this headband is not, you know, overly gauge specific. a little bit, but not much. So if you miss a stitch or something, it gets twisted and you lose a stitch, it's not like it's ruined and it's not going to work. It'll be fine. If it seems like we're going too fast, you can just pause for a second and get some stitches done, and then pause it and have a look at where we're at. If it seems like I'm going too slow, I'm sorry about that. You can fast forward to the next bit. I tend to, when I have to do a chain that's not a chainless foundation with the stitches already done, I tend to do this kind of thing a little slower because it's pretty easy to accidentally twist it. And why didn't we do the chainless foundation, you ask? Mostly because I could have, but mostly because when something is worked in a round like this with a continuous, after the first round, we're going to be working in a continuous without joining. It's just a little bit less messing around to go ahead and chain and then join and then work, because otherwise you have to stop and sew or stitch the chainless together, because it's like 3 loops, 3 stitches instead of just 1. So this is just a little less messing around to go ahead and chain it this way. All right, so this is where you want to be careful again of twisting. So what you want to do is get it straightened out. Notice we have just a couple of chains left, right? So we want to get it straightened out, and we want to make sure that it's going in the same direction. So I hope you can see right now that mine is twisted. So I'm going to go ahead and straighten it out by starting on the end that I'm on and chasing my work, flattening it out all the way around to the other side, like so, and then holding on tight to it while I finish up here. Then again, if you have a twist, it is not the end of the world, so don't worry about it. Just work in the stitches and finish up here. So I've got one more, and that's my starting chain. So I'm going to just pull my starting there and tighten it down so I can see what I'm doing there. So I'm all the way around. I'm double checking one more time before I join this round that I don't have a twist, and I do not. It's nice and flat. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is this is the last round we slip stitch. After this we work continuously, so we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first half double crochet to join the round. Try not to split my yarn. And we are going to chain 1. Now we're going to single crochet in the 3rd loop of the half double crochet from the previous round. So if you've not done this before, I'm going to get up closer here and give you a good view. So what you do, so normally you would crochet right here, right? And you would go underneath those top 2 loops of your stitch. Well, to work in the 3rd loop, and we're single crocheting, so we don't need to yarn over, you go from the back here, and you push down, and I'm gonna do it, but I'm also going to show you from the rear, and you catch that loop in the back of your work. This right here is your 3rd loop. 3rd loop, here's your top 2 stitches. Top 2 stitches. And 3rd loop. 3rd loop. 3rd loop. Here's your top 2 stitches. This is your 3rd loop. So you scoop down from the top down, twist your hook around, and grab the loop, pull it up, and single crochet. And what that does, after you do a couple, it becomes very apparent. I'm going to do it again. So I'm holding my work with my thumb sort of under, right where I would normally stitch. I would normally stitch right here. Instead, I kind of have my thumb there to support that. And I'm just reach behind and grab this 3rd loop. And single crochet. And what happens when you do that is you get a cool ridge, like a ribbing that runs the length of the work, or however long the instructions tell you to work in the 3rd loop. Working in the 3rd loop is a more dramatic, more defined looping method. When you see back loop only, this is the 3rd loop. This is what people are talking about when they say that. If you were working only in the back loop, you'd be working in this loop right here. So this is the front loop. This is the back loop. And this back here that we're working in is the 3rd loop. And you see how you get this nice ridge? It's defined ridge. Very useful little hack. So you single crochet in the 3rd loop of each half double crochet all the way around. I'll show you the back. See how it lifts it up and flattens it? And then from the top, there's all your normal loops in the front. It'll get a little, you'll find yourself looking at it wondering, wait, isn't that my top 2 loops? But after you do just a few stitches in the 3rd loop, your top loops are pushed forward. They kind of just automatically start rolling forward. I don't know if you can see this, but my work on the left that's unworked is already, it's kind of pitching forward a little bit. So that makes it easier to get into the 3rd loop, but it can mess with your eyes a little bit and make you wonder if you're hitting the right place. So if you look behind you, your completed stitches, if you have this, if it looks like that, you did it right. Perfect. I really like this yarn. It's nice and squishy. It definitely lended itself to the name for the Chomfy headband. And we could do it out of really chunky yarn, but this was seemed like the best choice for people to manage and be able to wash and all that. Plus, no wool in it. That's very soft, so we don't have to worry about people with allergies. I like it. I just like it. I like it's heathered, and it's just a nice all-purpose bamboo acrylic blend. And the stitch that we're doing is pretty textured, and it gets nice and squishy with this yarn, so I liked it. I thought you'd like it too. Almost there. I like the 50 stitch size of this headband because it just makes it feels relatively quick. Just when you think, gosh, am I done with this row yet? You look out and notice that you're almost there. And there we are. When you get to the end, don't join. And how you'll know is you won't have a unworked third loop anymore. So if you look real close at my work, I do not have an unworked third loop. This stitch right here is worked from over here. So the next thing that we do after this is we start working in continuous rounds without joining. We just work with work. So you will want to use your stitch marker, and I'm sorry, I should have said you should have a stitch marker in your bag as well. All right, so after you do your first stitch of this next round, you're going to mark it with a stitch marker. All right, so the first stitch starting the continuous round section of the headband is a half double crochet. So we're going to yarn over and insert through the normal top 2 loops of the first stitch like that, and half double crochet. And then I am just going to, I just pulled my hook out of the way, and I'm just going to stick a stitch marker in there so I know which one my first one was. Okay, and moving on, here we go. We're going to front post double crochet around the next stitch, and then we're just going to repeat that pattern around the whole headband. A half double crochet, then a front post double crochet. So how you do that, in case you've never posted before, I do have a tutorial on posting that's pretty in-depth, but I'll do a real quick anatomy of a stitch. These are your loops, the top part. That is where you normally would place a stitch. Get my hook out of the way there. But the stitch loops sit on top of a post. The post is like the vertical part of the stitch. So this is the post, and these are the loops. All right. So the stitch that my yarn is coming out of, that is a worked stitch, and those were the loops, right? So the post for that stitch is right here. So instead of working in the loops of the next stitch, I'm going to work around the post of the next stitch. Okay, so let's do that. It's a double crochet front post, so you insert your hook through and around the back side of the post so that the post is on top of your hook facing you like that. And then yarn over, pull a loop around the post and up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And that is our front post double crochet. And then the next stitch is a half double crochet in the next stitch, which means it goes under the top 2 loops. Okay, so we've just worked that post. We don't want to work in those loops right there, so we're going to work in these loops. Okay, so we worked our front post double crochet. So now where is your next stitch? Where does the half double go? So remember when I said that the loops were a stitch and the post for the loops was right next to it, just barely to the left? So we want to work in these loops next to this post. That's our next stitch. I'm going to leave my hook in there, and actually I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to get this right up to the camera. So here is our worked post. So we're going to half double crochet. And then our next front post double crochet, we skip this post because we work these loops, and we go around this post. and then work the loops right next to it, because that's actually the next stitch with a half double. So after you do a few, what it should look like is you have a regular stitch up here, and then right next to it a post stitch, and then indented more because we started posting, a regular stitch, and then right next to it a posted stitch. But if you spread it apart just a little bit, you would see the loops that are skipped are hiding there behind the post. Most people, the trouble they have with an alternating post and regular stitch is that they end up with either too many or too few stitches because they don't see exactly where to put their stitches. So don't feel bad if you also don't see. I'm going to show you again. I'm going to try and go a little bit slower here and give you as many close-up shots as I can to show you where they go. But just try to remember that if you work the loops of a stitch, then you shouldn't have a stitch in the post right next to it or right under it. It should be right next to it. I'll show you again. Here we go. So we have just half double crocheted in these loops right here. Right here. So this right here is the post for those loops. Just under it and just barely to the right. So we're going to skip that. And we're going to front post around the next post. And then half double in those very next loops. Okay, and skip this, post around this, and then half double in those next loops, post around this, half double in those very next loops, post around this, half double in the very next loops. Seeing the pattern emerge? Okay. Post around this. Half double in the very next loops. And so on as we go. After you do the first one, it's quite a bit easier to see where you post and where you half double. The first row is a setup row, and it's just a little bit harder to see it, especially if you're new to posting and you have not done it before, because you're trying to understand the concept of skipping posts in the first place. I do recommend, if you've never posted before, if you're having trouble with this, you may want to back up and start with a pattern that just calls for posting every other stitch. And that way you'll get a better sense of where your posts are and where your loops are. But this is a pretty good beginner posting pattern. It's not too terribly complicated, so hopefully you're understanding the directions and you're doing it. I believe in you. I think you got this. It is worth it, especially again if you're new to this, to take your time on this round. Like I said, you'll be able to see in subsequent rounds, you'll be able to see your posted stitches and your regular half double crochets much easier. And it will be then easier to decide where to stick your hook. Isn't that the eternal question with crochet? Okay, but where do I stick my hook? I've had people tell me that, knitters especially tell me that the thing they struggle with the most with crochet is that very thing. Where do I stick my hook? Because it's just different from knitting. Knitting is more about in which direction you pick up a loop and in which direction you yarn over your needle and how many times. Where crochet has that extra element of variety in the fact that you can completely change what things look like or do or how they turn out or act by simply sticking your hook somewhere besides, the normal under the two loop spot. There's so many other places that you can plant a crochet stitch, so that's why machines can't crochet. Interesting little piece of yarn trivia tidbit there for you. Almost around, and I will stop there for a second and we'll take a look, see how to count our stitches. This alternating post is what is going to give your headband some stretch. Instead of just spreading the stitches out and flattening them, it provides a ribbing of a sort. Okay, I pulled my stitch marker out of the way so that I can work that very last set of loops. And I'm just going to pull up some slack and we're going to have a look, okay? So this is what we should have. This is the bottom. I should turn it around, huh? So here's our bottom starting row chain. This is where we single crocheted in the third loop, and that gave us that nice little bit of ribbing right there, that nice bordered edge. And then our first round of half double and then front post double crochet on the next post gives us this alternating up, down, up, down, up, down. That is the Chomfy texture of this headband. Okay, So now in the subsequent rounds, we are just going to be flipping back and forth. We're going to be front posting around the half double and half doubling in the post. And that's going to give us this really great texture. So like I said, it becomes quite a bit easier to see where you stick your hook from this point forward. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to flip it back around to where I am in the back. Get my tail out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and remember, we're not joining. We just start working in the next stitch. So we're going to work our first stitch and then we're going to place our stitch marker. If you don't need a stitch marker, if you have no problem telling that this is where you started, maybe because you left your tail or you can see your join a little bit or whatever, that's fine. You don't have to use it. But if you are at all unsure where your first stitch is, you definitely want to mark it just so that you don't lose track of where you're at. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and so here is a half double crochet and here is my first post. So I am going to post this half double crochet the same way by sticking my hook through around the back so that the post is in front of my hook, laying over the front of my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and double crochet like so. And then I am going to half double crochet in the post, and that is right here. I'll pull my hook out. So here's the stitch I just posted, and here are the loops that are the top of the next stitch. And so I'm going to half double crochet in those. And then double crochet around the next half double crochet, like so. And then half double crochet in that posted stitch. So front post double crochet the previous round's half double crochets and half double crochet in the tops of the previous round's front post double crochets. That's all you need to worry about. Make sure you get around the post all the way and not don't get tangled up in the loops up here. Get down here around the post. My goodness. Okay. How do you know if you are putting a half double crochet in the top of the post? I'll show you. It should look, here is the post, and I just half double crocheted in the loops for that post. See how it's kind of pulled off to the side a little bit? I'm going to pull my hook out, grab my yarn needle. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to see. So here is the posted stitch from the previous round, and here is my half double crochet that I put in the top of that. If this was straight instead of worked, that's how you can tell. Okay, it's right there. So then post. When I say don't get tangled up in the loops, this would be wrong. I'm just under those two loops. That's not the correct place. This is the correct place underneath it. So underneath in this space under the loops, around the back, in the space behind, underneath these loops, is where your hook goes to post. So after this round, which is starting to look like this, isn't that great? I should call it the dit headband because I make that sound all the time when I'm doing it. I know I'm a dork. Everybody needs to know one dork though, I think. I firmly believe. That's kind of what you get. It's this really great textured, stretchy, chompy stitch set. Some of you may have seen the Ayana headband that I made out of the Ayana Journeys that is here in the shop. That is the seam pattern, in case you were wondering. As you can see, this works up, once you get going, works up really quickly. The chunkier the yarn that you use to do it, the quicker it happens too. One of the funnest things about this I love with this stitch set is that it looks good with any weight yarn. I mean, you could do this with really, really fine yarn if you were so inclined. You could do this stitch set on, say, a shawl or something like that, and get this texture with a really fine yarn. It would be really pretty. I just double crocheted where I was supposed to half double, so if you do that, you know, just back up and fix it. It's not a deal breaker. It's not a tragedy. It won't ruin your project. So I am one post away from my starting stitch, and here we are back to the beginning of the round again, where we will begin to do the same thing we did before. We will front post double crochet around our half double crochets, these, the ones that are set back a little bit, and we will half double crochet in the loops, which are right here, of our posted stitches. So the loops to your posted stitches should be just to your right, just barely of the top of your posted stitch. Okay, it sounds confusing, but it's not, I swear. And then the half double crochet post is right next to it, right here, that you post around. All right, I'm gonna get you started on this next round, and then I'm gonna come back to you when we are ready to do the border edge on the other side of our headband. And I'll tell you how many rounds to do before I pause. So let's keep going for just a little bit more and make sure that we've got this nice rhythm going that we like. Okay, so again, we just keep going the way we have been. We post around our half doubles, and we half double in the tops of the previous round's posts. So half double crochet in the top of a posted stitch from the previous round, and then a front post double crochet around the half double crochets from the previous round. At this point, it should be fairly easy to see what you are supposed to be doing if you forget or get distracted or something. And it should also be fairly easy to see if you have added or accidentally changed the reversed the stitch you're doing, because your next stitch will be the same as the one before, and you'll be like, whoa, wait, what happened? It should jump out and bite you at this point. So you will continue to work these opposite to the row before for another, let's see, we are on, so you would do this for another 4 or 5 rounds. Kind of think about like how wide you want your headband. Like, do you like them narrower or do you like them wider? You have enough yarn to do, you would be on your 10th round when you would start a solid half double crochet again. So you have plenty of yarn to accomplish this however you want to do it. 10 rounds from the half double crochet round, which is down here, the first one. Okay, so we are on round 5. We just started round 5. So for round 6 through 9, you would just repeat rounds 4 and 5, which is what I've been saying. You're just alternating. You want to end with a repeat of round 5, no big deal. And then at the end of it, okay, you're going to come back to me and I'm going to show you how to start round 10 and mirror the starting border that we did down here on the other side. Okay, so just keep putting your half doubles in your posted stitches and keep posting around your half doubles from your previous round below you. All right, and I'll be back to show you how to finish. Okay, so if yours is wider or narrower, whichever, however you decided you like the width, you had, again, plenty of yarn to make it, extra wide if you wanted to. You can keep going if you'd like, or if this seems like a good width to you, you can go ahead and start the finishing. I'm going to show you how to do it because it doesn't matter how many of those 2 pattern repeats that you do in between. You can do as many or as few as you'd like. So we're going to go ahead and finish up here by chaining 1 at the start of our round, which is right here for me. And then we're going to half double crochet in each stitch around. So that literally just means what it sounds like. There are top loops on, regardless of whether you did a post or half double, there's still the same 2 top loops. So through each little set of those loops, you're just going to do a half double. And so basically we're just mirroring what we did on the bottom, so that we have a nice border on the top. Hopefully you found this to be somewhat pleasant and relaxing. If this was your first time posting, it was probably maybe a little bit more intensive than I did it with Kimmer Kits to be. So definitely check out our tutorial on posting if you had trouble with that. And try doing something where you just post for a little bit to get the hang of it. Hopefully it was fine and you had a good time. Posting is one of my favorite things. It gives you so many options. Also working in the third loop. Ways to make vertical and horizontal rib lines by crocheting. Just super useful, and they give you a lot of opportunities in your creativity with your work. So we're just zipping around the top edge, doing a half double crochet in each stitch. It's windy today. Seriously, I'm going to put this right on my head. It's going right on my head. These are great. They're so fast. They don't take too much yarn. You can make them in a million colors. They're washable, so infinitely giftable. Excellent stocking stuffers. Everybody likes headbands. Men, women, kids, everybody. Just about. Some people don't look good in a hat, or they don't feel like, I should say, they don't feel like they look good in a hat. They'll rather prefer a headband. Women who have their hair up a lot often prefer headbands, so it's a good gift. You can't go wrong with it. So we've reached the first stitch again of this round, and the final round is to chain one here and then single crochet in the third loop, just like how we started, which, if you'll recall, is just reaching back behind the top two loops and grabbing this stitch. Pull up a loop and, oops, single crochet. Sorry, my bad. I yarned over. Habit. And single crochet in the third loop. So at the very beginning, the easiest way is to actually insert from the back underneath the two loops and then kind of push your hook down and you'll catch that third loop. But after just a few stitches, your work tends to start to roll that down, the top two loops down in front, like you want them anyway. I'll tell you another little hack for this. If you stick your hook back there and you're struggling to find it, you're probably in the same stitch you already did. So just move to the next one and see if it's easier. Yep. And also remember, if you keep your thumb and your middle finger of your yarn hand up close to the top two loops, it makes it a lot easier to control your work and find that third loop more easily. So after this, we just get to weave in our ends and we have made a headband. I like headbands for everything. I wear them a lot at home. I wear them when I'm washing my face or trying to do something I don't want my hair in my eyes. I wear them the warm way, from your forehead and then over your ears, whenever I have to go outside, because I hate hats. It makes my hair all staticky. And sometimes I have a bun, and then that's a pain. It looks weird. I like headbands, though. Headbands I like. So if you are working away at this, you should start seeing this emerge where you have the same ridge forming on this side, facing the opposite direction that you had when you started. And it should be a little easier to find that third loop at this point too. Your work should kind of have a little bit of a bend or a roll, I guess, in it, where those top two loops are pitched forward just a titch, making it really easy to stick your hook and grab that third loop right up. So we're just single crocheting our little fingers off, because we always want to do things quick, right? Quick, 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 quick. Just want to quick do this. Oh, one more row. I've got to pee, but just one more row. I know you're hungry, but just one more row. I know you have to pee, but just one more row. I say that to my dog all the time. I know. Hold on, hold on. Let Mama finish this, and then I'll let you out. Oh, if our cats and dogs could talk, huh? I wonder how much stuff they'd rat us out on. I saw you eating that ice cream. I saw you. You didn't give me any, so I'm telling. All right. We are all the way around, and I am ready to join and finish off. So here's where we're at. So how you finish it is when you get here, and it looks kind of off center, right? Or off, it's off kilter a little bit. You're just going to slip stitch over. So skip this first single crochet, slip stitch over to the second one. Okay. And grab that. And that will pull the line into shape, like so. Leave yourself a loop. A little room to work here. Take your snips. Cut your yarn, leave a tail for weaving. And then go ahead and just pull your yarn through that loop, and then go ahead and ratchet that, tension that loop down. Remember, we don't want to knot so much as we want this to just kind of lay on the stitch. So we're gonna pull it, but we're gonna support it on its way down to keep it really tight to the top of that row, like that. All right, and then we're going to thread this end through our yarn needle. And to weave in the top part, we're going to do the same thing on the bottom. We're going to run our bent tip yarn needle underneath this front loop. And then we're going to go over and we're going to grab that front loop, like that. And we're going to pull that in. And then just support that space where you, that spot where you joined, where you, a lot of people normally will actually tie a knot. Don't do that. Just support it and really tug this so that it flattens out and just becomes part of the work, like that. And then because we have this ridge line right here, and I am anal, I am OCD, and I want that to line up. So I'm actually going to take my bent tip and chase it down one more underneath that right there, and then right back up as though it is a stitch where I just was, and come back out the same place, like that. And that should be just enough to pull that in line, and it was, like so. And after this, now that I've got everything, you know, matching exactly how I want it, now because this stretches this way, I definitely want to weave my ends in vertically. So I'm going to go down the leg inside this double crochet below me here. And then I'm going to go over just one loop and up the leg of the one next to it, like that. So it's pretty invisible when you do that. And then, you know, I could cut it right there, but I believe in safety, so I'm just going to literally go back down where I came from, across the top, like so. And that's good enough. So I'm just going to grab my snips and give this a firm but not too tight of a tug, and I'm going to lay my snips on top of my work, being careful not to actually cut my work, and snip that edge, that end off. And it's pretty much gone. It's invisible, and you also can't really feel it by mimicking the stitches and working inside them and along their natural path. And to do the starting tail, we're going to do the same thing. This one I stitched over a couple of times, but I don't trust that enough to just cut it without actually weaving it in. Oh boy, did I make a mess of that. Jeez, let's try that again. There we go. So I'm just going to give this just a little bit of support by working. I'm going to go under a loop and under another loop and under yet another loop right here and pull that up. Straighten it out, make sure that it's laying and it's orderly and I didn't just disturb my cool row that I made right here. And then I'm just going to chase through the leg of the closest posted double crochet right here. Again, notice how it's mimicking the stitches so it doesn't interfere with the pattern of the stitches that I made. And then I'm going to go to the next one to my left and I'm going to chase down the inside of that one. And that should be sufficient because I did stitch over that one a couple times. So I'm going to go ahead and snip that. Like so. All right, look at that. Headband made. I love how it's so, but it doesn't really stretch out, it just stretches. It's a pretty one, right? Look at that. You did it. You did that. If you'd like to sew your I Did It With Kimmer label on, you can use your same yarn and you can put it wherever you like. It looks kind of good above the first ridge. It also looks good just centered on the back, kind of above your starting seam. Or you can, like I said, stick it anywhere you want. You can sew it on a bag or on a different project altogether or, you know, anything. It's yours. It's evidence that you did it with Kimmer. All right, my friends. Well, I really hope that you found this pleasant and relaxing. And if you did like this kit, you can check out my other I Did It With Kimmer kits on my website. You can also post questions or comments below of this tutorial, and I check them as often as possible. If you have an emergency, an urgent question, you really don't understand what you're supposed to be doing, you can email me at KIMMERSTASH kimmerstash@gmail.com, and I will try to answer you as quickly as I can. I hate to be frustrated, so I don't want you frustrated either. Anyway, so yeah, if you liked this, you can go ahead and subscribe to our channel. We post tutorials often. We also have a weekly show called Yarn Yak that we post once a week to YouTube, and it's also on Facebook. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram or both. And you can definitely check our website out and see what other kits you might like or other products that we offer that you might want. I'm always here for you, and I love that you guys are loving these kits, and I'm super excited to bring you another one soon. So until then, happy yarning, my friends.
Yarn.